You step outside, sunlight hits your face, and before you even register the brightness, you sneeze. Then you sneeze again, maybe a third time. It happens when you walk out of a dark room into daylight, when you open the curtains in the morning, when a camera flash goes off. Even when you drive out of a tunnel, there is no dust, no pepper, nothing near your nose at all. So why does your body react like it just inhaled an irritant? The answer is not in your nose. It is in a wiring mix-up happening deep in your brainstem, between two nerves that were never supposed to talk to each other. This is the real reason bright light makes some people sneeze on command. Here is what makes this strange. Your nose has one job: guard against physical irritants. Light is not physical. It cannot touch a nerve ending inside your nostril. Yet somehow, your body treats a beam of sunlight exactly like a cloud of pepper. That is not a coincidence, and it is not your imagination. Somewhere between your eyes and your nose, a signal is getting crossed, and once you see where, this whole confusing reflex finally makes sense. Let's slow this moment down, frame by frame, because the whole mystery lives in about half a second. It starts the instant your eyes meet a sudden spike of brightness. Not gradual brightness, sudden brightness. Think about walking out of a dim hallway into full sunlight. Your eyes go from reading a shadowy room to facing a wall of light almost instantly. That jump gets picked up by your retina, and your retina hands it straight to your optic nerve. This nerve exists for exactly one purpose: to carry visual information, including sudden changes in brightness, from your eyes to your brain. Nothing about this step involves your nose. Nothing about it involves any irritant at all. This is purely a visual event, a light meter suddenly getting slammed with input. Keep that in mind, because it matters later, when the story seems to shift toward your nose. It never actually does. Your nose is just where the confusion shows up. Once that light signal reaches your brain, it triggers one urgent protective job: shrink your pupils, and shrink them fast. Your pupils are like the aperture on a camera lens. Too much light flooding in too quickly can be uncomfortable, even mildly overwhelming for the eye, so your brain issues a rapid-fire command to narrow that opening down. This is why a camera flash makes you blink and squint almost on reflex, your body running the exact same emergency narrowing command. This pupil reflex is fast, automatic, and importantly, has nothing to do with sneezing. It is a pure vision protection response. If your body stopped right here, you would simply blink, squint, and move on with your day. For most people, that is exactly what happens. But for roughly 1 in 4 people, the story does not stop there. Magini, here is where the wiring gets interesting. In some people, the pathway carrying that pupil shrinking signal runs extremely close to another nerve entirely, the trigeminal nerve. This is the nerve responsible for sensation in your face, and, critically, it is the same nerve that triggers your sneeze reflex whenever your nose detects something irritating, like dust, pepper, or pollen. In the brainstem, these two nerve pathways, the optic pathway carrying the light signal and the trigeminal pathway responsible for sneezing, sit side by side, almost like two wires bundled a little too tightly in the same cable. Most of the time, wires that close together still stay separate, carrying their own signals without interference, but under the right conditions, a strong enough spike traveling through one pathway can bleed into the other. Driving out of a dark tunnel into full daylight is a perfect real-world version of this. The light spike is large, sudden, and intense enough to really test that shared wiring. When that bleed over happens, your brain runs into a strange interpretation problem. It sees activity firing through a pathway that lives right next to the trigeminal nerve, and instead of correctly labeling that activity as visual, it briefly misreads it as trigeminal activity, the kind it usually only sees when there is a physical irritant sitting inside your nose. Your brain is essentially getting a garbled message. Imagine two coworkers talking over each other on a shared phone line, and your brain, listening in, mistakes one voice for the other. In this case, the light-triggered voice gets misheard as the irritant-triggered voice. Your brain has no way of knowing that what it is sensing is actually a photon, not a dust particle, because by the time the signal arrives, it looks close enough to the real thing to fool your defenses. Once your brain believes it is dealing with a physical irritant, it does what it always does in that situation. It activates the trigeminal nerve's built-in defense system, and that system is the sneeze reflex. Your body cannot tell the difference between a light-triggered misfire and a real particle of dust caught in your nasal passage, so it runs the exact same protocol, either way, tightening your chest, drawing in air, and forcing it back out in a sudden reflex. This is exactly why opening the morning curtains can produce an immediate sneeze with nothing physically in the air at all. The nose is simply the exit point for a decision that was actually made somewhere else, in that shared brainstem pathway upstream. And this also explains why the sneeze so rarely stops at 1, because the crossed signal is not always a single clean pulse. It can fire in short repeated bursts, similar to static crackling on a line, rather than one steady tone. Each burst can trigger another round of that same trigeminal activation, which is why so many people sneeze 2 or 3 times in a row after stepping into bright light, rather than experiencing just one isolated sneeze and moving on. The repetition is not your body overreacting for no reason. It is the direct, physical signature of that shared pathway, firing in quick succession. None of this is random from one person to the next either. This reflex is inherited, passed down through your nervous system's actual wiring, in a pattern doctors describe as autosomal dominant. Researchers even gave it a formal name, Ukyo syndrome, short for autosomal dominant compelling helio-ophthalmic outburst, which is a fittingly dramatic title for something this small and strange. Roughly 1 in 4 people carry this particular wiring pattern, which is why some people can walk confidently into blinding sunlight without a flicker of a reaction, while others brace themselves every single time they step outside. Here is the part that actually matters for you, the part where this stops being just a curiosity and becomes something you can work with. Your body already has a built-in way to soften this crossover before it ever fires hard enough to reach your nose, and it comes down to one simple idea: gradual light adjustment. Remember, the whole misfire depends on a spike, a sudden jump from dark to bright. Your pupils are built to shrink in response to light no matter what. That part is not optional, but there is a real difference between pupils shrinking gradually, in small controlled steps, versus pupils getting slammed all at once by a wall of brightness. A sudden spike is a sharp, loud signal traveling up that shared pathway. A gradual adjustment is a quieter, slower signal, one far less likely to bleed over into the trigeminal nerve sitting right next to it. Step straight from a dark room into full sunlight, and you are handing your nervous system the sharpest possible version of that signal. Let your eyes adjust first, even briefly, and you are handing it a softer one. So the reset itself is almost embarrassingly simple. Before you step into that bright moment, pause for just a few seconds with your eyes half closed, or slip on sunglasses before you are fully in the light rather than after. Do this before walking outside from a dim room, before you throw open the morning curtains, before you drive out of a tunnel into open daylight. You are not blocking the light entirely, you are just removing the spike, giving your pupils a chance to narrow gradually, instead of all at once. Picture it like turning up a dimmer switch slowly instead of flipping a light on at full brightness in a pitch-black room. Same eventual brightness, completely different jolt to your system. And here is something worth sitting with. This reflex was never your body malfunctioning in the first place. It is two separate protective systems, each doing exactly what they were designed to do, just sitting a little too close together in the wiring. One system exists to protect your eyes from too much light. The other exists to protect your nose from irritants. Neither one is broken. They simply share a tight stretch of road in your brainstem. And every so often, in about 1 in 4 people, traffic from one lane spills into the other. That is a very different story than the one you have probably been telling yourself in that awkward moment. Some version of feeling like your body is glitching out in public for no reason. Over the next week, without expecting anything dramatic, you can simply notice what happens when you build in that small pause. Watch what happens with the curtains, with sunlight, with stepping out of a tunnel. Does the sneeze still come? Does it feel less sudden? Is it 1 sneeze instead of 3? You are not testing a cure. You are just getting curious about your own wiring, watching how it responds when you remove the spike it usually has to react to. And if you have this trait, you are in wide company. Roughly 1 in 4 people carry this exact inherited crossover, this exact shared pathway between the optic nerve and the trigeminal nerve. That means in almost any room, a quarter of the people around you have sneezed at sunlight, at a camera flash, at a suddenly opened curtain, for the exact same reason you have. So the next time sunlight hits your face and your body reacts before you even register the brightness, you will know exactly what is happening underneath it. It is not dust. It is not pepper. It is not your body malfunctioning. It is wiring, briefly crossing signals in a shared stretch of your brainstem, doing double duty for a split second. And now, instead of a light spike catching you off guard, a quick squint or a pair of sunglasses slipped on just before you step outside becomes your simple, practical way of keeping those wires a little calmer.